Now, 4 other things that I've seen with AI specifically in writing that I would be concerned about or be thinking about. Number 1 is the flooding of the market, burying human-made things with machine-made things and making it harder to find. You've also got situations where people are hiring cover artists and then they're getting AI, and that becomes a liability issue in the future when more stuff comes to the court system. And if there are legal cases against AI that says you don't have ownership of that thing, and people don't know that they are getting AI. It's the same thing where it's like it's hard to find an actual editor in certain places because people will just say they're an editor, then use Grammarly and then send the thing back and they didn't really do an edit. So it's just making more scammy businesses, and it's also burying art, like I mentioned with the Clark's World. Number 2 is AI generators are trained by humans to allow certain ideas and words to pass through or not. This will sanitize the creative content, storytelling, everything. Look at what just happened with Roald Dahl. If you're using AI to create stories, to write your stories for you, only the ideas that are pre-approved, written on the back end, are going to be allowed through. And you could say, well, what if I program my own AI? Why would you spend your time programming an AI propaganda instead of just writing the story?
AI agenda.
You're going to have more creative liberty by just writing your own story. That kind of just confuses me. A third thing is when a system is in place to catch AI content, it will probably be rough at first to catch which is AI and which was the original, because these AIs are trained by scraping content that's out there. So I think that when there is a system out there to capture AI automatically, it's also going to end up flagging the real people that were also scammed from. And in the case that this is like stuff on the Kindle store, then I think it's going to result in actual books being taken down by real people, and that being a whole thing. Then the fourth thing is, and the AI bros are totally going to hate me for this, but it's a very humanist viewpoint. But I don't believe that machines can ever have the same creative capacity as humans. They can't feel organically. They can't think organically. And as a creative human, I know what the creative process looks like. I can't predict where things are going to go or how they'll develop or the depth of emotion or experiences. But storytelling specifically is a very human process. Art is a very human process, talking about human experiences, emotions, irrationalities, fears, things built on your own experiences, knowledges, understandings, and nuance. We create metaphors and allegory. We create new directions to take things in by reinterpreting them. We invent. I don't believe that computers will ever have that ability because they can only think within what is being created or what has already been written and thought of by their programmer. They can only remix what has already been fed to them. I also know that there is a segment of society that has probably spent a little too much time on the internet and that has decided, the AI girlfriend is better than the AI waifu is better than any human, and there's no reason to interact with humans whatsoever. And
all right. On that note, I'm going to say, if you guys want to watch the rest of the video, I'll have it linked. I suggest if you want to respond to anything that Ian has said in the video, that you go over to Kirk Patty Cake channel and leave a comment on the video over there. If you want to respond to anything that I've said during this segment, then you can just go ahead, drop me a comment down below, and I will respond to your comment during a future show. Now, as far as Ian's video goes, let me just kind of wrap this up. So this is what I kind of saw, like your categories. I know you're just you were going off the cuff, just speaking directly from the heart. Now, I want to say I did take the time. I watched your whole video. I took the notes and I put some thought behind it. And what I noticed is that a lot of your categories seemed to overlap a little bit. And I think that there is room, because you definitely come across as somebody who is clearly genuine as far as your intentions go. So you're making the video in good faith, and I know where your stance is on there. And I'm also kind of like the pro, it's just such a weird thing to say, pro art, or the anti-AI. I'm not going to say, yeah, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. But I'm saying, but if we're going to approach the conversation, I think that we should have our ducks in a row. You know what I mean? There's nothing that I need to convince you of. You are strong in your convictions. You know where your heart lies. I know where your heart lies. but conveying that to other people can probably be where the most difficulty lies, because that's where conflict can arise. So what I mean by getting our ducks in a row. So as far as these angles go, I think it helps to understand how to approach any given conversation on this topic that has so many different subjects. If we can quickly identify where someone is coming from. So when somebody is just some rando and they're talking about a subject that pertains to this topic, you want to be able to quickly identify, okay, this is the angle that they're coming from. Okay. So I kind of like took what you were talking about in this video and your angles, and I kind of put them together in, like, I think just three. I narrowed it down to like just three kind of not necessarily angles, but umbrellas, if you will, that different types of angles can come down to. So number one is the utilitarian. This is if they're taking any kind of angle that is pragmatic. So if they're arguing it's just a tool, or it's just to enhance my artwork or something like that, then you can understand, oh, okay, they're coming at it from a pragmatic standpoint. And then whatever their talking points are, as far as that goes, then you'll be able to tell whether or not they've actually done their homework. So usually if somebody's coming at the whole AI, what I've noticed is if people are coming at the whole AI, the AI generators and art conversation, and they're just utilitarian about it. Oh, it's just a tool. They haven't done their homework. They strike me, there's somebody who's new to the conversation, because it's kind of like that's kind of like the basic surface level stuff, is trying to figure out in other words, what they're basically showing you is that they're in the stage where they're still trying to figure out what this AI stuff is all about. That's the utilitarian. And then the second one is the ethical side. So the ethics have to do with philosophical arguments, which have to do with the business and the legality. You see how I put that on there? Instead of business being a separate thing, the business would actually fall under the umbrella of the ethics. So what are the ethics of this whole thing? And that it all boils down to, like you were saying before, the bottom line, which is another way of saying capitalizing. People, that's how I sum up the ethical umbrella, is like if somebody is coming at the conversation from the standpoint of capitalizing from this AI stuff. So you know that you're dealing with someone who is coming at it from an ethical point of view, or lack thereof, for instance. And then the third one is the more humanistic. It is the moral side of it, which has to do with the meaning. If it's more existential. In other words, it's like the questions of, like, what does it mean to be human? What is art? What does this product or this end thing mean to the person? So that would have to do with the moral side. And I think that's where a lot of, like I said before, the emotions come from. So in other words, when you start talking about the existential side, like, well, what are artists going to do and this and that? And you get in your type of responses are like come from the type of responses that you're getting from people seem spiteful, hateful, full of vitriol, kind of just dismissive. Then you know that you're dealing with someone that hasn't fully gotten to that point yet. Like they don't really know what art is, or they haven't really thought about the moral aspects on it, because perhaps they're more stuck on the ethical side of it. So in other words, instead of coming at the conversation, say if you really genuinely want to try to change someone's mind about AI generators, and you're talking about it from the moral standpoint of it. Well, you're going to put artists out of a job, but your person you're talking to, they're not even looking at it like that, because they don't, maybe they don't care. They haven't thought that far into it, because they're only looking at it from either the utilitarian side of it, where it's just about the pragmatic, like how can they benefit from this tool, you know what I'm saying? Or they're only looking at it from the ethical umbrella. That's as far as they've gotten, and they're just thinking about how they can capitalize. How do they serve to gain by using this thing? So I think that would be, moving forward, I'm going to kind of use something like that. I do appreciate you tagging me in that video and kind of bringing that to light, because I've yet to actually kind of summarize. We've talked about a lot of different subjects and came at this topic from a lot of different angles so far, and I've yet to be motivated to kind of just summarize. And I think that that's what your video has kind of inspired me to do. And I think that does kind of sum up the different angles, the different ways that people are viewing the perspectives. That's why I say these are like 3 perspectives: the utilitarian perspective, the ethical perspective, and the moral perspective.